idea that you can Zoom for the classroom, in the classroom, and outside the classroom. And instead of Carmen and me just talking a little bit, you mentioned a couple things that we did in our last session, but then also bring some guest speakers in and then talk about all of the different ways they have been actually using it. So Carmen, what are a couple things that you mentioned in our last session?
Oh, it was fun. Remember last time you were talking about how you used it to have, when you were in town, you had guest speakers. And I brought a student from the Spanish Tutoring Center, and they talked about how to use it there. And I use it for videos. We mentioned those things, and we had them to speak to us.
Right. And that week I was sick with the flu last year. I actually did some advising with my athletic advisees because they had to actually register Monday. And so I did some advising using Zoom from home, sitting in my recliner. And so there's a lot of ways that you can do it that are not just, you know, going to a classroom or going to the CTE, like as you can see Merle and Bethany are sitting there in the CTE classroom. You can do it from home or from another location. And so that was some of the things we wanted to talk about today. So we're gonna have 4 people that are gonna jump in and speak and tell about the ways that they're actually using it. And Carmen is going to introduce our first speaker that's going to join us.
Well, yes, I'm glad that Deborah was able to be with us. She's from the mathematics department, and she's using it for the classroom. So thank you, Deborah, for being with us. Can you please share what you do with Zoom, please?
Sure. It actually arose because I needed a way to connect with my classes the first day of class. I was scheduled to be out of town at a conference, and I didn't want to miss the first day of class because that seems to kind of set a bad tone for my students. I wanted them to know that I have high expectations of them, just like I have high expectations of myself. And I also wanted them to know that we live in the 21st century. If you can't be in class, you can still submit your homework on time. So I set up with Bethany for Bethany to hold some Zoom meetings for me for class. We don't have a whole lot of classrooms in the science and math complex that are video conference equipped. So Bethany graciously allowed us to use the CTE for my classes. And it seemed to work very, very well. The students and I, at least we got to meet. We got to cover the syllabus, so it was the perfect day to do a Zoom meeting. It might not work as effectively, or at least it would take more prep on my part for me to do this on a day when I was actually covering material where I needed to use the board or simulation equipment, because I teach mathematics. So a lot of what I do is computational, and sometimes you need to be right there in person. But I could imagine it working really well for days when we have more discussion-oriented things and statistics. And this worked very well. The students were engaged. They answered my questions. We covered the syllabus. We even got to talk a little bit about, you know, first day things, motivating the course, why this course is important for them, and what they're going to do with it. I really, really liked that I got to meet with them day one, and I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to lose a day of class because class time is so precious. What I think the detriments was that we did not connect the way we would have had I been there in person. When I'm there in person, I can walk up to each person as they're coming in the room and introduce myself and ask a question about them. And I couldn't do that with the Zoom meeting, but I felt like it was a very good alternative to missing class, which I didn't want to be an option.
So what did the students, how did the students react?
The feedback that I have gotten from them, which is mostly anecdotal because I didn't send out a survey or anything, but the feedback that I have gotten from them is that they enjoyed meeting with me the first day of class that way, that they preferred meeting the first day of class too. To me, just a lot of times what I'll do when I have to miss for a conference and it's not day one is I will post my class online and they'll have an activity that they have to follow and something that they need to submit. And I think they much preferred us having a discussion to work they had to do on their own.
Absolutely, I think I agree with that too. Do you guys have any questions? If you have a quiet group, if you want to talk, we'll unmute you. Right now, most everybody's muted. No questions?
I think I'm seeing one. Can you point out who has their mic on?
I see one hand.
Deborah, I think there's some music coming through on your end.
I sent you a text about this. It came up, I closed out and it came up again with Zoom. When I just open up Zoom, it's there. I've never had this happen before.
I'm not sure where the music is coming from.
I don't know either.
I think most people have their
Okay.
mics off.
I don't know either.
I do not know what's happening. I apologize.
No, I'm sorry because I think it's distracting. But so what was the environment that you were in while you were talking to your students? Like, how were you able to set that up? And was it difficult to find a place to have a quiet hour to have your classes while you were doing that, or?
Could you ask the question again? I actually figured out the music thing.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Yay. So I know you were away at a conference when you were Zooming in with your classes. Was it difficult to find a quiet space for an hour, or how did you go about preparing somewhere where you'd be able to sit down and chat?
I was in a hotel room at a conference and I just used the hotel room. I just made sure that the window was behind me so that they didn't even know it was a hotel room. So as long as I did that, they couldn't tell. They couldn't tell where I was. So all I literally had to do was rotate my chair just like that.
So did you tell them that you were at a conference?
I did, yes. I told them that I wasn't skipping out on them and not working, that I was skipping out on them, but it was because I don't know how to clone myself yet and be at 2 places at one time.
Great.
I'm just thinking that, not that this happens often, but what a great possibility for continuing to have class sometimes when we have those weather events. I mean, because if Saturday had happened on a Monday through Friday, you know, there would have been classes that people couldn't make it to, that this still kind of lets you continue with the learning. You might have to modify your lesson plan or something, but you can still move that forward and just invite everybody from the safety of home to still be able to do that. And so that it really has implications outside of just being at a conference that I think are really interesting to start to consider.
I agree. That's a very valid point. It may not be ideal. Like there's a lot of times I like to do tactile activities in the classroom. That's really what I prefer. But I also don't want to lose a class day. Like I said before, class time is precious. So getting something done is better than getting nothing done at all.
Absolutely. Got to modify that lesson plan, but nonetheless, at least it's moving the learning forward in some way. Yeah.
Right.
Anybody else have a question? Okay, Carmen.
Okay, then we have a second guest speaker there at the CTE in the comfort of that room. Moral Dirksen, he's in the anthropology field, and he also uses Zoom and we want to hear what he has to share for us. We had been chasing him, and we got him, so we're excited. Let's go.
Let me do a shout out for Carmen. I mean, whenever I had problems, you know, she was on speed dial. I would say, Carmen, she said, I'll be over there. I said, oh my gosh, I am the least technological person. If anybody knows my phone, they know anyway, so I was teaching, last spring, I was teaching capstone. And I had a capstone class for sociology, and a capstone class for anthropology. Sociology, you know, I've been here a long time, and so there were plenty of alumni in Chattanooga, and I could call on to come in as guest speakers. My problem was a lot more complicated in anthropology, because our anthropology majors, our alums, are all over the world. So using Zoom really was wonderful for doing that. There were several problems, so I'll just tell you a few. I had about 5 or 6, it was a 1 night a week of class, and I had about 6 speakers through Zoom that came in to share with the class. They did about half an hour to 45 minutes each. So I did Barb Curran, she's in Istanbul. She's with kind of an underground missionary organization there. I had Jack Foster, who at that time was in China at a university, language study. I had Katie G, she works at NSA. She was actually at home. They had moved from Washington, D.C. to southern Georgia, yeah. That she was, so, but still offside, still out of the state. I had Barb, I had Caleb Wolverton in Mongolia, he was an outskirts, village out in the outskirts of Mongolia. And then I had Ashley Adkins, who was in Hawaii doing a PhD there in forensic. So I was wanting to get people in forensic, in archaeology, in cultural anthropology, in missions. And Zoom really allowed me, I think, to give students a wide variety of experiences. The one person Carmen came in, there were several problems. There's 8 hours, there's 12 hours in China. New Zealand, you got about 12 hours difference. So if you have a night class, that was one of the, just kind of being able to say, okay, you're going to have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to come in and do this hour presentation. The time was kind of a factor. Also, another factor that we had was privacy. I mean, there's only certain things you don't know how to do recording. ADG works for NSA, what you can say on camera, what you can send over the internet, what Caleb can say from China. We have to be careful. So they knew what the hazards were, they knew kind of what the privacy was. So sometimes that could be a bit of an issue. But overall, I thought it was, Carmen helped me do one that we recorded, we posted on YouTube. I hated it. I'll never do it again. So thank you, Carmen, for doing that. I did, watching myself on camera, I did not know that Zoom focused on me when I was talking like it is now, right? I do not know my mannerisms. I don't like being on camera. I don't like people watching me. So once we saved that, we posted that on Moodle, it was like, I do not like this. I interrupt people all the time. I have horrible mannerisms. I don't like seeing myself on camera, but anyway. Using it in the classroom wasn't bad because most of the time, students could see them, they could ask questions, and so I thought it was a wonderful experience, particularly in anthropology, where there was no way for us to have those people come in or connect with those people. Again, sometimes the technology, we were down in room HC100, which is that conference room that the humanities, humanities, science people set up. Technology in there was sketchy. Sometimes it worked, but Bethany in history, political science really helped me a lot in making sure it was on, set was on. It was still very problematic whether we got hooked up. But overall, I think it was great to be able to hear for half an hour, 45 minutes in a capstone class, people give information about their careers, what they were doing, what their suggestions were for students after life of break. So in that way, I thought it was really wonderful. Thanks, Carmen, for helping me with asking out of Hawaii.
More, what did the students think of that format? The Zoom, using Zoom, the students you had here at least.
About that.
You know, we had a microphone that was in the middle of the table. And I think, I don't know, that was the only way I could have done it. And always, I think professors always have the inclination to interrupt and to answer all the questions. And I guess to a certain extent, they have to kind of get used to, you have to prompt them, you have to say, okay, you have a question, you have kind of like you're doing here, right? People don't automatically just kind of ask questions. It's still the professor leading the discussion, you know, with their agenda, with their answers. I think it models pretty much the traditional classroom with students not doing a lot of talking.
So you sense that is multiplying the task of the professor and it makes it more
Oh,
difficult?
no, I know, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Okay.
No, I don't think it is. I mean, it was wonderful to have those guest speakers. I had one student, Abigail, had her iPhone, sitting in her car. She was in New Zealand. She was on site. And she could show us the beautiful mountain snow on them. She's in Queenstown, right? So she could, while she was talking, she could give us some scenery. She could give us some background. Sometimes when people are doing them at home, you see these, of course, these YouTubes where the kids interrupt. They have the kitty G's, his two little kids, has to get a private room, has to tell the husband, you know, put the kids to bed, put me on a conference, and all those kind of things I wasn't used to. In that case, that was a lot more sterile than what Abigail was on site in New Zealand.
Good.
Merle, did students watch it later? Did you save it and so that they could watch it later, or what, did they not go back
I
to?
wish I had known how to, because they were wonderful interviews. Once Carmen came in, she kind of showed me, I kind of forgot already. But if I recorded all those, that would make it excellent. Alan's teaching at this time would have been such a great resource for Alan to have had, because Caleb now has moved to the Catholic City. He's no longer in one of the IMOCs. You know, Abigail was here, we could have her in the class. But again, it's just to have that as a resource that you can pose for classes, students can watch later. Students all did reflections. You don't have to write. So they all had to do page or 2 page reflections on that interview. But I don't know if that's what you're asking.
No, that was great.
Yeah.
That was. Any questions for Merle, guys? An excellent way for any of our people in from somewhere else and open it up to our students.
Yeah, that wasn't necessary in sociology because I have people in Chattanooga and Cleveland, people that come to visit, I can schedule them in. There was no way to do that in college.
What have you, because obviously this isn't the first time you've taught this class, what have you done in the past? And do you feel like this is better, or was there?
The class before has been sociology and law
Okay.
together.
So it's been a mix.
So it has been mostly sociology.
Okay.
Um,
So this helped amplify.
It really did.
The
By
anthropology.
specializing in anthropology, getting a forensics person, a cultural person, linguist in,
Mhm.
can do all these, right?
That's great. Yeah.
That's excellent. Carmen's talked about teaching people that were in South America for the summer, stuff like that. And I think this is the way we can do it without limiting boundaries and space. So. Any other questions?
Really quickly, I have a question, which is,
Yes.
how well can you hear us three in this room?
Yeah, how can we make comments about each other?
Absolutely great. There was one time, Merle, a couple times that you kind of dimmed out in the middle, but we can hear you fine.
Well, and this is not good because of my mumbling. That is the only downside to Zoom. Look at the Carmen's face. I don't mumble
When
much.
Deborah Gladden hosted her class, we had all of her students in here, and of course, they'll sit as far back as they possibly can. They're lined up against the back wall here, and she would ask questions, and I heard them back there go, And she could hear them, and I thought, my word, I can't even hear what they're saying. So the equipment works pretty well.
Yeah, just as long as you can hear my mumbling, that's good.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great. That was an excellent question, by the way. I do know in our classroom here on camp in the School of Business, sometimes if we don't pull the speaker closer to where the students are, maybe make it more round, they don't hear the back row. I think you just have to practice with your room to make sure that it works.
Right.
So, excellent questions.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just FYI, the lecture hall at Johnson's lecture hall in Humanities, we're in the process of putting a camera that would hold Zoom for a lecture hall. And so if you guys want to use it, because I know that most Zooms are held in small classes. So we were able to get some technology grant to hold for a lecture hall kind of setting.
That's phenomenal. At the end, I'm going to talk, Bethany's going to mention a couple things. There are several places on campus that have classrooms that have it available. And we'll try to make sure everybody has that available to them as well. Not as big as a lecture hall, though. It'd be really good for bringing somebody in even from somewhere else, like Merle is doing, if you had a big group. So yes, we'll definitely try to put that on the list. That would be wonderful.
Another.
Next speaker we want, was you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to ask another question about sound. It seems like there's some echo because we're hearing ourselves talk right now on your speaker because your microphone is picking it up, and the others have their microphones silenced. So it kind of, I guess for a group dialogue like this, where there's several individuals on at once, it almost you're required to put it on the microphone on mute so that the sound doesn't reverb.
Okay, so I'm going to mute mine, and then you go ahead and talk and see what it does, okay? So I'm muted.
Okay. Can you hear me talk then? Yeah, okay. So yeah, that makes.
Yeah, so I think it's just basic conference call etiquette. You want to mute it if you're not talking.
Right, okay.
It reduces that reverb and echo.
Right.
But again, it's going to depend on the speakers they're using and the cameras and all the different equipment and rooms. So.
Okay. Okay.
Excellent point. And I didn't realize it was doing that. So I'm glad you pointed that out. It actually is in my laptop. I have a camera and a speaker that is connected to my monitor. So my sound is probably really close to that speaker at the same time. So good point. Anybody else have a question? Well, the next guest speaker is going to be Guy. Guy, are you there? He's there. There he is. Guy is going to talk to us a little bit about how he's been doing it in the classroom and share a few funny stories.
You know, they would leave it up to Guy to share the funny story. You know, I guess that's a little bit of my MO, me and Merle. So it's great to be meeting with everybody this afternoon. Just to give a little bit of context and history in the field of business, the ability to meet in virtual teams is a necessity due to, global economy, international business, etc. And more, this skill is vital to have for our graduates as they go into the workplace, because more and more of the workforce is meeting virtually, and they're solving problems, and they're working on different types of teams virtually. So we, as part of my organizational behavior class last semester, we took we meet Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 9. And we took, for about 6 weeks, we took Fridays and we put our students into teams of 3, and we assigned certain problem-solving projects. We made them perform quizzes. So we actually taught the technology of Zoom, but more importantly is how do you interact? How do you solve problems using technology? And so it ended up being a lot of fun for the students. We would have different, they would have to learn to manipulate Excel, Windows, electronic textbooks, online quizzes. And so this ability to manipulate through various mediums at the same time interacting with video is quite important to be able to master, and it's a good skill to have in the business world. Now, when they begin to learn to share screens, and they some of them roll out of bed at 9, and the team meetings start at 9, it becomes interesting at times, and so they begin to learn protocols and certain things to do and not to do. And just to kind of relate some of the key learnings that the students go through is to, before they share their screens, sometimes it's important to look at what you might have been working on or what might have been in the background. We had one incident last semester where a young lady was evidently doing some photoshopping on a background picture of her scantily clad on the beach in a bikini. And all of a sudden she hits share screen, and you're like, oh my gosh, my eyes. did I really, am I seeing this? And so you quickly, advise the student, we may want to remove that inappropriate background from the video sharing. And she was just extremely embarrassed and was apologizing profusely for that. So one is, before we share screens, is ensure that we don't have emails or pictures in the background or things that we may not want to share with the world out there, because if you're recording it, it's out there for eternity. Some of the other things were the cameras on some of the laptops have a much wider viewing angle than their cell phones when they use FaceTime. So when some of them roll out of bed, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of times where you have roommates that may be going back and forth in the background with their pajamas on, or young men maybe not fully dressed appropriately. So it's like, hey, stop, quit sharing, or close down your video. And so learning some of those aspects are kind of important in learning how to use the technology. But more importantly is how to use those mediums like Excel, and going and opening up multiple windows and doing research together and solving projects and problem solving. That is a real skill that is difficult to acquire in the virtual team aspects. So it is a great opportunity to learn. And so when we finished the exercise after 6 weeks, we polled the students, what did you think about this? And the response was overwhelming. I did not anticipate the level of engagement that these students would have. A lot of times, for my generation, it's like, okay, and as you probably saw, I muted you and I didn't share my video with you. I'm over here multitasking. For them, it was all engaging. And I guess that's part of their generation, but they absolutely loved it. And they loved the mastery of the skills, because when you're sharing screen, you've got video, you've got different software opening. It is a skill set required to be able to read feedback from people using the video screen and seeing, trying to read that body language just a little bit and trying to pick up on cues more from an audio or voice inflection sometimes is kind of cool. So for us, it was a great experience. I'll be teaching again in the fall, and I'm looking forward to replicating the experience. So thank you for letting me share with you today. I'd love to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Guy?
Not so much a question as a comment, but I love the way this has the embedded elements of what are just real situations in contemporary society. as they engage in the business world. And I'm even thinking about, at this point, even a lot of teacher professional development is done through this kind of medium. And just the fact that students are allowed to make those horrifying mistakes, but under the nurturing of a professor that's going to let them make it in this safe place before they make it when it's consequential in the business world. So I like how real you've made this project, as far as it's not just about the content, but it's also about the protocols and the etiquettes and all of those things that are going to have such an impact when they go out into their professional world. And so my brain is already whirling with adapting this to something that I can do at the project that I have later this semester. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any comments? Well, so far we have seen Deborah for the classroom, and we have seen Merle and Guy in the classroom. And now we want to talk with Jason about how to use Zoom outside the classroom for all those other activities that we are responsible for and need to do. And Arlie and I participated in a summer committee meeting with Jason, and he is going to talk about how that one came about.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Okay, Maven, Carmen, thanks so much for having all of us together to talk about this whole idea of Zoom and how much easier it does make things. And one of the questions that Maven asked me to address is why use Zoom for a committee meeting? Today's a perfect example of how this can be used. It makes it so much easier. My experience with Zoom actually started with the NSF grant that I'm on, where we would be having meetings like this with professors from all over the country, San Diego, St. Louis, everywhere. And obviously there are so many benefits in that than trying to get everybody together using the travel expenses and everything else. It just makes it so much easier and more convenient. And even here on campus, I mean, it was so great because at that specific meeting that Maeve and I were in, Arlie was hanging out in Alaska and still got to meet with us. We didn't have to catch him up on what was going on in the meeting. Now, the time zone difference was a little bit of a catch. What time was it? Is Arlie still on here? Arlie, what time was it? Maybe 3 in the morning that you met with us?
It was 4 o'clock.
Yeah, 4 in the morning, we got Arlie up. So you got to consider that type of thing. But, you know, there was a summer that we were doing NSF meetings, and I was sitting out at the pool. And, you know, everybody's kind of jealous about that, but it's just really nice, convenient, just being able to get everybody together. And no matter where you're at, you just got to consider time zones. Preparing for the meeting, somebody already addressed this. You just got to find either your laptop with a camera. The help desk here on campus is actually how I got the camera on my computer. It didn't have one, but they did order one, and it was pretty cheap. You just got to have that. But across campus, Arlie talked about this. I think the lecture hall and the humanities. Dr. Elledge and I were just in another meeting the other day, and there's a room in the Dixon Center that has that. We've got a conference room here in the education building that has a Zoom capability there with the cameras. So I think we probably have several rooms across campus, and I'm sure that Bethany and Dr. Elledge can kind of fill everybody in on how to get access to those. The dynamics of the meeting, and maybe you can speak more to this. I think the only thing that you have to have is that coordinator, that person that logs in, gets the Zoom link. It's so easy to do. I mean, it's not difficult at all. They'll give you the link and you send it out. And so it's just really coordinating the communication beforehand with the folks and just giving them access to it. Positives and negatives of Zoom. I wrote down a bunch. First of all, the cost. At the most basic level, Zoom is free. There are 3 additional tiers that offer more features for a cost, but the Zoom that I use for my meetings, it's free, and I think, I think most of us would use that free level. The advantages of Zoom, first of all, the platform is easy to use. It offers high quality audio and video. Screen sharing between the presenter and the guests. It's so easy. You hit that share button down there at the bottom. Participants can instant message during conferencing, as we all did here earlier. They're easily recordable. Users can create reoccurring meetings and use the same link for future meetings, so you don't have to have a new link if you want to schedule a future meeting. Talked about travel and the improved proficiency of that. Cost savings, convenience, enhanced learning opportunities, like so many of you talked about. I mean, Carmen, I would have never even thought about having students over on a cross-cultural trip and actually them being able to sit in on their classes. There's no time constraint other than the time zones. The disadvantages, and I thought a little bit about this, would be, I think there's only 3 that I could come up with. First of all, the technical difficulties of, just all of those technical issues, Wi-Fi capabilities, all of that. That could be a hitch. The cost of setup, I think it's relatively cheap, but you still have to have, the camera, the speakers, all of that. And then, like I said earlier, the time zones. Does anybody have any questions for me? I mean, I just think this may be a great place for us to go. I think it's so much easier to schedule Zoom meetings than to try to get everybody, even our meetings on campus, trying to get everybody to meet during this hour and figuring out what the schedules are and just trying to coordinate all of that in the cafeteria or any place else. I mean, I know that face-to-face is great, but this is a great option for us, I think, across campus.
I agree with you. So if there is a meeting and I have a class right before it and a class right after it, I'm a mile away from you, not quite, but almost.
Yeah.
And by the time I either walk down there and then walk back, or I drive down there and drive, it's just really bad, not so grand. So if we meet like this, I click on at 12, I'm off at 12:50 or whatever, and I still am able to do my classes. So the meeting that you were talking about with Arlie, I was actually in Virginia that meeting as well.
You were, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we all logged in. You had a group in the conference room, and we all logged in, and we still were able to talk back and forth and ask our questions and share. And so to me, it was a great way to do a meeting, especially in the summer, so we could still do our own things. But it was hard to find a time when everybody was still in Cleveland.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it was Guy that said earlier, and he said it jokingly, but you can multitask while you're in a meeting. And for those of us that are just crunched for time between classes, I mean, sitting here, we could be working on things while we're still paying attention to have the meeting right here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's excellent. Any other questions or comments?
I completely agree with Jason on the technical situations. I was in Colombia and I didn't have internet that was a good quality, and it destroyed the meeting. I had to find, and you have to prevent that. That is kind of like destroys the whole process with Zoom.
It does. Yeah.
If you noticed, Alan jumped in a while ago with your phone. Was it your phone that you jumped in with? If you guys noticed, he popped up because he was showing even Merle at the same time. So in reality, you don't even have to have a computer. You can actually come in with your phone. So if you were sitting by the pool, you could pick your phone up and join into the committee meeting. As Guy mentioned, you might want to watch the background or how much that it's showing if you're by the pool, but it is a great way, I think, on campus. And Jason brought up a bunch of other things too about the different classrooms on campus and locations, and Bethany is going to talk about that just a little bit. About
So I've tried to track down all the classrooms and conference rooms on campus that have video conferencing equipment in it, the Logitech equipment. You can obviously do it from your office or anywhere, that has a camera and a speaker. But some classrooms are specifically equipped with that equipment. So I have a list of those by building department. So if anyone's interested in sort of seeing where those are located closest to you, I'm happy to share that list with you. Just know that most of them are classrooms and conference rooms, so it's reservations, and you have to plan ahead to use them. But
The humanities one, Bethany, they're just putting it as we talk.
what's that?
The humanities one, they're just putting it right now.
Yeah, I can. Let me see if I can put it in the chat.
So
They haven't installed it yet.
yeah, the humanities is not on the list yet, probably Bethany. That's what he's saying.
Oh yeah. But we can absolutely add that. You said it's going in Johnson Lecture Hall, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
That's great.
Dr. Illich, how do you see this actually helping us, even in the CTE? I mean, would it be possible for us to do more CTE sessions like this?
I was thinking that this whole time. I thought, you know, if we can get people willing to just open up their Zoom link during lunch in their office, which a lot of us do anyway, I think we need to be making more use of this on campus. And Mava pointed out, really, just the distance between buildings now. It's not even just kind of getting on board with tech. It's not all that new now, but it's not that. But really, if you have a 1 o'clock class, this is what keeps some people from coming even to those dining hall sessions and any kind of lunch session. So just the pure getting around campus. And again, it makes us, or at least me, I'll speak for myself, actually getting up to speed a little bit more with where our students are. They're all over this. This is a piece of cake for them. And so I'm the one that needs to get up to speed on this. And then it helps us then in teaching our students and all these. You've had some really good ideas today. I appreciate each one of you for contributing, and for Mava and Carmen putting this together. I do think we need to do more. And I think that we need to have discussions along these lines. And maybe we could even zoom into somebody that's actually using it. Maybe we could zoom in and watch some. Can we do that sometime? You know, somebody that's using it. Even what Guy was talking about, would it be possible ever to some of us just zoom in as observers, not participants? I don't know, but we need to do more of this. We need to use it in lots of ways and share those ways. And I also do like the thought of, what you can do when you're away, how you can still, and we've had people do that. And I know when I was department chair, I had somebody go over and make an extensive set of videos to play in their class while they were gone. Well, this would have been easier, as a matter of fact. The videos worked, but there are ways. So we just got to get this out and use it a bit more. So I really appreciate this. But yes, we need to use it more, Jason. It's a good point.
I'm curious if anyone has tried it for student advising or office hours, student meetings, sort of things.
I have used it for office hours. When I'm teaching in the summer, when I'm teaching 310, Spanish 310 online, I offer office hours from the backyard of my house, and they engage wherever they are and ask questions, and it has worked. It has been efficient because we lose, if it's an online class where we don't have interaction, this creates that necessary interaction.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
For the advising, I did use it, as I mentioned briefly. The last spring break, I got sick and literally had the flu, so obviously I wasn't coming on campus. And that Friday, that was advising, and that was while we were still doing advising for a month. Registration for a long time, and so my athletes needed to go do advising the following Monday, and so I advised too. And then when I came back that Monday, I managed to make it for about 4 hours, and then I had no strength left. And so I had like 3 or 4 appointments that afternoon, and I literally sent them all an email and said, hey guys, I'm doing this via Zoom, find a place. And so I went home and got in the recliner and put my feet up, and I sat there and zoomed in. And I will tell you, because I asked them afterwards how they felt about it, because some of them were freshmen, sophomores, they had not done anything like this. And they all told me that they really enjoyed it because they got one-on-one with me, just like here, but they felt like I was really talking to them. I had one kid, he sat back like this. So Dr. Wilson, what do you think about me doing when I graduate? So we went way beyond the advising piece. we just sat there and had a 15 or 20 minute conversation. And for him, it was anything different. So if this is something that you need to do, I think it works well. Again, that limits, that way you do not have to, like Delia said, if the snow stuff is going on and we still need to be advising, they can still be logging in to wherever we're at.
Has anybody used
Oh,
it?
excuse me. Go ahead.
I was going to ask if anybody's used it for like, you know, students being out of class, being absent, and, or they know they're going to be sick, you know, or they know they're not going to be in class, right? Maybe just taking their laptop to the classroom and putting the camera on. Does that work?
I have.
You have done that?
I had students doing poster session, but they had to be at a wedding. So they were in teams, and one partner had the computer with the student presenting, and the other student was in the hallway doing the poster session.
Okay, okay.
I had a seminar class, and so this discussion was a really critical kind of wrap up of a major concept that we were doing. And one of the students had an appointment with a specialist back home, where she really needed to be with the same doctor. And it wasn't during the time that that we were supposed to meet, but nonetheless, driving back was going to put her driving back really, really late into the night, which I was not comfortable with. And so we just zoomed her in, put the computer by her chair at the table, and everybody, because everybody else in the room was able to see her and hear her. Once we got over our giggles from how funny it felt the first time, then it was just like she was in the room and she fully participated. That would have been a hard assignment to make up in any other way and really get the richness of that conversation. And it worked beautifully.
Question, isn't there a time limit on a Zoom session?
So my account has a time limit on it.
Yeah.
Neva's account did not, which is why she's hosting this meeting.
Oh.
So I'm not sure. That may be something where we have to contact IT and see why there's time limits on some accounts, but mine is limited to 40 minutes with more than 3 participants.
Right.
So if it's just me and one other person, there's no limitation on it. But if I have 3 or more people in there, it's 40 minutes or less.
So this is the School of Business account, and I log in as Tracy is what I actually log in as, Tracy Dorsey. But we have done, last semester, we tentatively tried doing some tutoring labs and made them 2 hours long. And I could schedule consistent meetings 2 hours long for the whole semester on certain days, and it doesn't limit how many people can pop in. I am positive there's a limit somewhere, but you know, it didn't limit it today. And it did just make this one for an hour, but I could have made it a couple of hours. So I think it's what kind of account you have. And so, Bethany, you're correct. You need to talk with IT and see what kind of account that's set up as. I know for hours, there's not a limitation. But that's an excellent question. I know that the free one does limit, but I don't know what all the limitations are for the free one.
It does, and it gives you that 40 minutes, but what we did this summer, Maven, you may not know this, is I think it was either you or Arlie that got cut off. So what we did was immediately after the 40-minute expiration, we got another link and sent it to everybody, and we were right back on within just a couple minutes.
Right.
That's great.
I didn't realize that's what happened, that it was because of the limit of time, but that's correct. Any other questions?
Yeah, when you switch back and forth like that, so that you're like now maybe we've got you on the screen, and right before that we had Jason. Does Zoom automatically just put whoever's on the screen? Okay.
Zoom does that automatically.
So I'm on there now.
So what I've done, because there's so many people here, up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, there is a block that says that you can look at what view you're seeing. So I actually don't have it full screen. I have it little blocks for everybody.
Nice.
So this is gallery view,
Right now,
and then it
there are-
highlights whoever's speaking.
Ah.
So it puts the green outline.
Yes, perfect. That's exactly right, Bethany. So right now, all 10 of us, a while ago, there were 12 or 13 people that were on board. And the ones that have black background, like Arlie and Guy and Sarah Ortega's on here, they've muted out their background.
Who's Arlie?
They go to the end. Hi, Arlie. They go to the end, but everybody that has the video on stays in the middle. And then whoever's talking, when it's this view, it outlines, as Bethany said, in green. If it's green, then that person would pop up.
Gotcha.
So you have the ability to adjust the view.
All right. That makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, so that way you know who's talking, basically. And it would stay on me until somebody else talks. So Carmen, talk.
Here I am. It's green.
Yep. Guys, we are so glad you joined us today. Carmen and I, as you can tell, we get kind of enthused about this subject. And so we appreciate all of you all joining us, and especially Deborah, Merle, Guy, and Jason for joining us as our panel and sharing their different ways of using it. So have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you
so much. Thank you.